Silence is often mistaken for emptiness. Yet silence is the bridge upon which two souls can walk toward each other without words. When you sit with someone and no words are needed, when the stillness itself becomes communication, then you know a true connection has been made. This bridge does not belong to the mind. The mind is noisy, always planning, comparing, analyzing. The bridge belongs to the heart. It is built through presence, through awareness, through a calm and undisturbed spirit. If we can learn to listen not only with our ears but with our entire being, we will discover that silence speaks louder than words ever could. This is why in Shaolin practice we emphasize not only action but also stillness, not only expression but also restraint. For in the stillness of two human beings sitting together, there is an entire world being spoken without sound. When the noise of the mind fades, the purity of the soul shines. And then you realize there was never distance at all, only the silent bridge waiting to be crossed. Silence is often feared because many people believe it represents a lack of words, a lack of expression, a lack of meaning. But if you observe carefully, silence is not the absence of something, it is the presence of everything that words cannot carry. When you step into a quiet forest, or when you sit by the still waters of a lake at dawn, the silence there is not empty, it is alive. Every tree, every ripple, every breath of air is communicating something profound. It is not emptiness, but fullness, so full that words would only diminish its depth. The same applies when two people sit together in silence. What the mind interprets as nothing happening is in fact the soul recognizing the presence of another. The silence between them becomes a bridge, an invisible current flowing beneath the surface, carrying emotions, trust and understanding beyond speech. In our modern lives, silence has become rare. We fill every moment with noise, conversations, entertainment, distractions, endless streams of information. But what happens when there is no pause, no space, no quiet? The mind becomes restless, and relationships begin to lose depth. Words multiply, but meaning becomes thin. It is like pouring water into a vessel that has no bottom, it never fills. Silence is the bottom of that vessel, it is the foundation that allows words to have weight. Without silence, words lose their power. This is why many ancient traditions, from Shaolin meditation to Zen practice, emphasize silence not as something empty, but as something sacred. In silence the clutter of thought clears, and we return to a more natural state of being. This state allows us to feel more authentically, to connect more deeply, and to recognize truths that cannot be spoken. When you look at silence through this lens, you begin to see it as a teacher. Silence teaches patience, because in silence you cannot rush, it unfolds at its own pace. Silence teaches humility, because it reminds us that not everything must be expressed to be real. And silence teaches clarity, because when the noise of the world fades, what remains is the essence of things. In a conversation, silence allows space for reflection, for truly hearing what the other person is saying. It gives time for emotions to surface, for unspoken truths to be acknowledged. In relationships, silence can be the most intimate form of connection, two souls simply existing together, without the need to justify, explain, or impress. This is the fullness of silence, it enriches, rather than diminishes. Many people fear silence because in silence they begin to encounter themselves. Without noise, without distraction, the hidden thoughts and emotions rise to the surface. This can feel uncomfortable, even unbearable. But here lies the secret. Silence is not creating those feelings, it is only revealing them. It is a mirror, showing us what is already there. And when we learn to stay with it without fleeing, we begin to cross the bridge. We begin to see that silence is not a void, but a space of possibility. It is not nothing, it is everything. It is the soil from which understanding grows, the ground upon which relationships stand, and the path upon which souls meet. Silence does not separate us from others, it unites us in a field where words are no longer necessary. It reminds us that behind every sound, every action, every thought, there is a deeper stillness, a silent bridge connecting us all. Connection is not built in the number of words exchanged, nor in the constant presence of another body nearby. True connection arises when we are fully present, not partially, not distracted, but wholeheartedly aware of the moment and the being in front of us. Presence means that your attention is not divided between the person you are with and the thoughts racing in your mind. It means you are not preparing your reply while the other speaks, nor are you secretly wandering into plans of tomorrow or memories of yesterday. Presence is a form of deep respect. It says, without words, I see you, I am here with you. And when another human being feels this unbroken attention, a silent bridge forms, an invisible bond stronger than any spoken assurance. In that moment, the connection is real, not imagined, it is alive. Yet, many of us move through life absent, even while surrounded by others. We sit at dinner tables, but our hands and eyes are fixed on glowing screens. We speak with loved ones, but our minds are elsewhere, rehearsing tasks, checking lists, building arguments. And so, the bridge between souls begins to crumble, not because of anger or disagreement, but because of absence. Presence is the foundation of trust. Absence erodes it slowly. To be present is to give the most precious gift one can offer, time and attention. Time cannot be returned once given, and attention cannot be faked. A person can sense immediately whether you are truly with them or only half there. When presence is missing, even the most loving words feel hollow, but when presence is full, even silence feels complete. This is why in Shaolin practice, presence is cultivated through the body first. In training, if your attention drifts, your form weakens, your breath breaks, and your movement loses harmony. The body reveals where the mind has gone. To return to presence, we bring the attention back to the breath, to the weight of the stance, to the sensation of energy moving through the body. This is the same discipline needed in human connection. If your mind drifts, if you are caught by judgment, impatience, or boredom, the other will feel it. True presence requires discipline. It is not merely a passive state, but an active choice, repeated moment by moment. The ability to remain present with another is an art, and like all arts, it requires practice. It asks us to step out of the self and enter the reality of the other. Presence does not demand perfection. It does not mean you must understand every word or solve every problem. Instead, it means that in this moment, nothing else matters more than the being in front of you. Presence listens not only to words but also to pauses, to gestures, to the emotions hidden in silence. In presence, you hear what is not said, you see what is not shown, and you feel what is beyond expression. This is why presence is the true measure of connection. Two people can spend hours together, but remain strangers if they are absent. Yet two people can sit quietly for a few minutes, fully present, and emerge deeply connected. The quality of the bridge between souls is not determined by time or distance, but by the depth of presence carried into the moment. And so, presence is the foundation, the silent ground, upon which true connection is built. Most people believe that listening is done with the ears, but in truth, the ears only capture sound. To truly listen is to receive more than words, to perceive the silence between them, to sense the intention beneath them, and to feel the emotions that rise from behind them. When you listen only with your ears, you may catch the vocabulary, but you miss the essence. Listening with the whole being means that your mind is still, your heart is open, and your body is attuned. It is as if every cell of your being becomes receptive, not just to sound, but to presence. This form of listening transforms communication into communion. In such a state, words are no longer mere information, they become doorways into another soul. The art of listening deeply is rare in our time. Most people do not listen, they wait. They wait for their turn to speak. They wait to defend their position. They wait to release their own thoughts. In this waiting, they are not truly listening. They are filtering, judging, interpreting, while the essence slips away. To listen with the whole being, one must release the need to respond. One must drop the armor of opinion and step into the vulnerable state of simply receiving. This is not easy, because it requires us to suspend the ego, to resist the urge to dominate or control the flow of conversation. Yet when it happens, when you listen without agenda, the other feels it instantly. They sense that they are not being measured or corrected, but accepted. And in that acceptance, the silent bridge between souls grows stronger. In Shaolin training, listening is not limited to sound, it extends to the body and to energy itself. A practitioner listens with the skin, with the muscles, with the breath. In partner training, for example, one must feel the subtle changes of tension in the opponent's body, the smallest shift of weight, the unspoken intention of movement. This is listening without words. The same principle applies in human relationships. When someone speaks, the words are only one layer. The tone, the rhythm, the pauses, the gaze, the gestures, all of these communicate just as much, if not more. Listening with the whole being means perceiving all these signals without forcing them into categories, simply allowing them to be received. This is a higher form of awareness, one that transforms ordinary interaction into a living meditation. When you cultivate this way of listening, you discover something extraordinary, that every human being longs to be heard, not only for their words, but for their existence. To listen with your whole being is to say, without speaking, I acknowledge you. You matter. I receive you as you are. This has a healing effect. Many conflicts dissolve not because solutions are found, but because one person feels truly heard for the first time. Many relationships deepen not because of grand gestures, but because of quiet, attentive listening. And often, the deepest wounds in the human heart come from not being listened to, from feeling invisible. To listen with the whole being is to offer the antidote. It is to offer presence, acceptance, and recognition at the deepest level. And when this happens, a silent bridge appears, connecting not only minds but souls. Stillness does not come naturally in a world that celebrates speed. From the moment we wake up, we are pulled into a rhythm of urgency, messages to answer, tasks to complete, goals to achieve. Our bodies may be still as we sit at a desk or lie in bed, but our minds are racing, restless, endlessly moving. And so, many mistake physical inactivity for stillness, but true stillness is something else. It is not simply the absence of movement, it is the conscious practice of resting in the present moment. It is the ability to remain centered even when life is loud, to remain grounded even when chaos surrounds us. Stillness is a practice because it does not appear by chance. It is cultivated deliberately with patience, discipline, and awareness. When you observe Shaolin training, you will notice that stillness is woven into every movement. Before a strike, there is a pause. After a form, there is a breath. Between exertion and effort, there is a moment of quiet recognition. These pauses are not empty, they are what give meaning to the movement. Just as in music, the silence between notes creates rhythm, in life, stillness gives shape to action. Without stillness, action becomes mechanical, disconnected, and draining. With stillness, action gains depth, clarity, and purpose. This is why stillness is considered a discipline, because it must be practiced until it becomes natural. Like sharpening a blade, stillness polishes the mind so that it can cut through confusion and illusion. Without practice, the blade rusts and the clarity is lost. Stillness is also a mirror. When you sit in stillness, all the things you normally run away from begin to rise: restlessness, discomfort, hidden fears, unresolved emotions. For many, this is why stillness feels unbearable. It confronts them with their own inner noise. But this confrontation is the very practice. Stillness trains us to stay, not to escape. It teaches us to breathe through discomfort, to watch the storm of thoughts without being carried away. With time, the storm begins to lose its power. The waves of thought still rise, but the observer grows stronger. Slowly, a space appears, a space where choice becomes possible. Instead of reacting blindly, you respond consciously. This is the gift of practicing stillness. It creates freedom within. When we carry this stillness into our interactions with others, something profound happens. Our presence deepens. We no longer rush to fill silence with meaningless words. We no longer panic when faced with emotions, either our own or another's. Instead, we remain steady, offering a calm space that invites connection. Just as water reflects clearly only when it is still, the human soul reflects truthfully only when the mind is still. Relationships thrive in this environment. In stillness, we can truly hear another. In stillness, we can feel the unspoken, sense the invisible, and bridge the distance between souls. This is why stillness is not simply a state, it is a practice, an art, a discipline that must be renewed daily. And through this practice, we discover that stillness is not the absence of life, but the very ground upon which meaningful life unfolds. Human beings often live with the illusion of separation. We believe we are divided by borders, by language, by culture, by beliefs, by generations. Even within families, within friendships, within relationships, people often feel distant from one another. The mind says, I am here, you are there, I am me, you are you. We are separate. But when we enter the realm of silence, when we step onto the silent bridge between souls, this illusion begins to dissolve. In that still space, beyond words and judgments, you realize that what you thought of as distance was only a projection of the mind. Presence collapses the miles between us, and what remains is the shared essence of being. The bridge does not have to be built, it is already there, waiting for us to walk across. Consider what happens when you sit quietly with another person, without speaking, without trying to impress or persuade. At first, the mind may resist, it may whisper, this is awkward, this is empty, there is nothing happening. But if you remain, if you allow yourself to simply be, something subtle begins to shift. The air feels alive. The presence of the other is no longer outside of you, it begins to resonate within you. The walls built by thought and identity soften, and a current flows between you both, wordless and invisible. This current is the bridge. It erases the illusion of separation, showing that what connects us is far stronger than what divides us. The bridge removes distance not by carrying us somewhere else, but by revealing that we were never apart to begin with. In Shaolin philosophy, this truth is reflected in the understanding of Qi, the vital energy that flows through all living beings. When you train deeply, you begin to sense that this energy is not confined to your body alone. It is continuous with the energy of others, with the energy of nature, with the energy of the universe itself. There is no true boundary, only the perception of one. The silent bridge between souls is an expression of this reality. When two people are present with each other in stillness, their energies harmonize. There is no need for constant words to affirm connection. The connection already exists, silently pulsing beneath the surface. To walk the bridge is to trust this flow, to surrender to the fact that distance is only an illusion created by the restless mind. The removal of distance has a profound effect on how we live. It changes how we view others, not as strangers, but as fellow travelers. It alters how we handle conflict, not as a battle against an enemy, but as a misunderstanding between two parts of the same whole.
And it transforms how we experience love, not as possession, not as dependence, but as recognition of what was always united. The bridge removes distance by revealing unity. It does not erase individuality, but it shows that individuality exists within a larger field of shared existence. This realization is not merely a philosophy, it is an experience. And once you have walked the silent bridge, once you have felt the distance dissolve, you will carry that awareness into every encounter. Every meeting becomes a reunion, every silence becomes a conversation, every soul becomes familiar. And so when we speak of the silent bridge between souls, we are not describing something distant or mystical. It is here, always available, woven into every breath, every glance, every moment of presence we share. Words may guide us, but it is silence that carries us. Movements may express us, but it is stillness that reveals us. The bridge does not need to be built, it is already within us, awaiting our willingness to walk upon it. If you can sit in silence without fear, if you can listen with your whole being, if you can remain present with another without distraction, then you have already crossed. You have already entered the space where separation dissolves and unity begins. In that space, connection is no longer fragile or dependent on circumstances. It becomes unshakable because it rests not on the mind, but on the essence of being itself. The silent bridge is not a destination, it is a way of living. A way of moving through the world with presence, with stillness, with awareness of the invisible threads that connect all of us. And the more you practice, the more you realize you were never truly alone, and you were never truly apart. There is only one vast field of life, and silence is its unbroken language. So walk the bridge often, in your solitude, in your relationships, in your daily life. Remember that silence is not emptiness, but fullness. It is not distance, but connection. And if you learn to trust it, you will discover that the silent bridge between souls is the very ground upon which humanity can finally meet, beyond words, beyond fear, beyond separation,